Welcome to the Zen AF Hustle podcast, created for ambitious women who want to have it all without the burnout. I'm your host, Julia Garcia Devanishak. Welcome to the Zen AF Hustle podcast, where ambition is sacred and hustle is not a dirty word. We just talk about how to approach it in a much more different way and how prioritizing yourself can be the hustle and how to really bring that Zen back into that hustle. So I'm really excited to record this episode for you today. I've actually recorded it already once before last week. I wasn't in love with how it turned out in the sense of, I was just riffing and I think that I can make it a little bit more structured. That and I found that in terms of the cadence of this podcast, I feel like weekly might be a little bit too much for me because now that I'm doing video, it takes a lot more time for me to actually edit. So what I'm going to do is potentially just do 3 days a month or 3 weeks out of the month and see how that goes. So I know on my description it actually says bi-weekly, so I'm giving you one more week than usual. However, expect 3 weeks on, 1 week off. So let's get into today's episode. I think it should be a fun one. And I just genuinely wanted to go over something that is happening right now in all of social media, all the headlines, and that is, talking about Miss Emma Grede and her new book, Start With Yourself. It's, taking over my social media. I don't know if it's just because of how my algorithm is set up with, a bunch of female founders and, self-help and all that stuff. So obviously it's right up the alley of this podcast. And I personally have looked up to Emma Grede as somebody who is an example of what is possible, someone that is really holding the two desires of having a family and creating something incredible at the same time. It's really what I strive for and what I'm working towards. And I think she's just a really good representation of that. I've never heard her say anything that I genuinely did not agree with fully, or like at least somewhat, right? There's some things where I'm like, oh, I can see how that is working for her or how that makes sense for her. And maybe I'm not there in my life, or maybe it's not the same as what I hold as true or part of my values, but I've never, disliked her for anything that she said. So I can genuinely look at her as an example of what's possible and as a mentor and as just a woman that is doing something that I aspire to do. So, that being said, I'm really happy that she is sharing more of her journey, more of her message, more of her how to. And it is incredible to me of the amount of backlash that she's been getting from many, many people and specifically women simply for sharing her truth. Like, and if we just think about that for a second, somebody is getting incredible backlash for sharing their unique perspective or their unique journey of how they do things, how they have done things. They're not saying you should do it. They're not saying this is how it should be. They are literally just describing how they were able to get to the position they are in, where, and you cannot deny that she is a successful person and has been able to create incredible things, including a family, a successful family, and successful businesses and brands. So, all of that is just, it's just incredible to me that, nobody can really satisfy and appease everyone. And I think what is the most, and I really want people to understand that this should not hinder you from trying to show up and be all you can be in a sense and have the success and the visibility that she has, because it can very much communicate to your subconscious like, wow, this person has done all these things and they are still being, hated on and trolled and all sorts of things. And I really would hope to change your perspective on that today because it is unfortunate that not only is it happening, but it is happening from other women. Specifically, I have not seen men say anything. I have not seen a man's perspective on her book or what she's saying or the remarks that are or like the quotes that are taken out of context. I haven't seen a man comment on it at all. So, and I haven't seen her any, I haven't heard any, yeah, anything in regards to that from a man. It's all been from women. And this is really genuinely something that I wish we could stop doing as women. I have a couple of theories. Well, I have one theory, and I have one concept that I kind of made up myself. I love making up concepts because it helps me understand things. But the theory that I have, and obviously, like none of this I've researched, it's just part of something, some things that I know for sure, and some things that I've just kind of, you know, put together in the way I understand things. So, my theory is that as women, we desperately need to work on our mindset in terms of abundance, but more so just because of just scarcity. And I think that this stems from way back in the hunter-gatherer days when everything was scarce, genuinely, including the fact that we needed a man to survive because they have the most testosterone. That means that they are just naturally and biologically stronger. And back in those days, it was absolutely necessary to have one in order to survive because they were the ones that went and hunted. They were the ones that protected you against saber-toothed tigers and built shelters and all the things, right? Can lift heavy things. So, in order to survive, we needed to have men in our lives. In order to have a man in our lives, we needed to be the most desirable. And that sometimes meant being competitive with other women. Again, theorizing. Okay. So I'm pretty sure if we looked any of this stuff up, we can find some facts to back it up. But I haven't done that. And this is just my theory. But I think that we have to be competitive towards each other as women in order to be the most desirable, in order to survive and be able to have a man that would keep us safe and alive and we could procreate, right? So that is my theory. And I believe that because our brains literally haven't changed much in like 10,000 centuries, only enough to really adopt human language, we still operate from with these same brains from centuries and centuries ago. So it is not, it would not be a surprise to me if my theory is absolutely correct, but that is my theory. So it is so essential for us, except, now that we live in this modern world with so many other choices and an abundance of opportunities and people and all, I mean, literally, we don't even need a man now in order to procreate or survive or do any of those things, technically, right? They're still nice to have. And I'm not advocating for that by any means. I actually really support, having a family unit and all those things, whatever. But I think that our scarcity mindset and our competitiveness, because of that, comes from that place. And it is just so different now, but we are still operating from this extremely old system. So it would do all of us a big favor to really look at that, and we would all get ahead so much more if we just supported each other and didn't make each other wrong, or we didn't judge each other so much, and we didn't take what everybody said so personal, and we just let everybody live their lives. And actually, we're a little bit more like men in that sense, which is funny because I am actually listening to the book, and Emma Grede talks about that quite a bit, and I can see how her husband has influenced her quite a bit in that regard as well. And just in a matter of thinking and things like that in business, right? In this modern world where we're ambitious, we're trying to conduct business and be in the business world, and there's just some traits that they hold at, they being men, that work so much better and help everybody win. And that is literally why they are dominating in that space, because there's just some things that I feel like they naturally do that is more conducive to their all over, like their overall success. And I think it's hurting us as women to have this competitiveness, to have this scarcity mindset, to have this, outdated, be performing and actioning from this outdated, mindset, essentially. So that's my first theory. And I really wish we would stop. And I don't know what it would take for us to change this mindset, but I think that Emma Grede sharing her perspective and her truth is so helpful and reassuring for those of us that have worked on ourselves and have worked on that our mindset and are trying to move in this direction and trying to find more like-minded women that have also worked on themselves and are going towards this direction, because it is another reason why I feel like we are so lonely on this entrepreneurial journey, because sometimes it's really hard to still find people that support us and can see us and still extend whatever kind of resources our way and help and stop gatekeeping and all the things, because that's really the only way that we are going to win as a whole as women. So I don't know, this is just my PSA. Let's stop doing that and let's work on ourselves enough to, really transform that part of our brains that are just operating from this false narrative and that we no longer live in, truthfully. The other thing that the other concept that I have, I am laughing because again, just literally making this shit up, is this concept that I made up. And it's called subconscious equating. And that is that, as mostly as women, I'm just say that. I think we do it as humans too, but because like if you look at anybody's TikTok video right now, or anybody's reel, or anybody's Instagram, whatever it is, and somebody's saying that they're doing something some way, or they're like, let's just say like it's like a cooking recipe and they're making pancakes in a very specific way, there'll be somebody in the comments that are like, I don't like pancakes. It's like, okay, then keep scrolling then. Like, who asked you, And this is what I mean by subconscious equating. Like, you just subconsciously equate what somebody is doing to something, to like just make it mean something about you. It equals something about you, when really it has probably nothing to do with you, and you are just injecting yourself. And I understand this. We are all the center of our own universes. And so it's very natural for us to do this, but we got to stop doing this shit too, especially as women. I'll tell you when I had had enough of this kind of interaction. I was pregnant with my second baby, and I didn't say a damn thing all pregnancy, and it was hard. I have, like most women, naturally hard pregnancies. They're just tough. I get really big and it's really uncomfortable. And it was my second one, and I had a very rambunctious toddler that I was dealing with, and shit was hard. Okay. And towards the end, I like made one story post on my personal Instagram that is mostly just family and friends and people that I've let stay out of pity. And I just shared that, wow, this is getting tough. These last couple of weeks are no joke. And if you've ever been pregnant, I mean, let alone with a toddler, and let alone when you gain 70 pounds minimum, it is no joke. Okay, that is just like, it's just truth. It is my truth. It is my fact. And it's my Instagram story. And I get to share that. And somebody, without fail, came into my DMs and was like, oh, you're so lucky. My baby is in ICU and I could only wish that I made it all the way full term and this and that. And like, respectfully, I responded and I was like, respectfully, that has nothing to do with my situation, and I'm allowed to have my own experience and share my experience. Because then people, I swear to God, you guys wonder why then you get pregnant, right? And then you're like, why didn't you tell me it was like this? Why didn't nobody tell me it was so hard? And it's like, okay, what we do, and when we do, we're shamed for it. This is why. And I only see genuinely women do this to other women. And it's like, what if I, you know, messaged you about your baby that is in ICU and was like, "Oh, you're so lucky." What? That like what if the tables were turned? That would be bizarre for me to say. That would just be bizarre. Like you're here, like let's just say it's not even the tables were turned exactly, right? Where I said, "Oh, your baby's in ICU." Like you're so lucky. I had to go full term and it was incredibly painful. That's not right. What if I said, oh, what if I had a trigger warning? What if, you had like a miscarriage or something like that? And I was like, oh, you're so lucky. Your baby's at least in ICU. And this is not right to say at any point. Nothing about it is right and is okay. You cannot diminish somebody else's experience and truth just because it does not equate to your own. It is not the same. It is not equal. You just subconsciously equated it to mean something about you, like it was equal. We have to stop doing this. This is bizarre. It's a bizarre way of doing things and thinking, and it is extremely unempathetic. Just focus on the other person, what their experiences are, what they are sharing, what their truth is, and try to have some empathy, try to have some compassion, try to have some sympathy, try to have some understanding. This is what we need to do. Take the nuggets, take the gold, take the things, take it with a grain of salt, take the things that resonate with you, leave what you don't, what doesn't. We need to be a little bit more discerning and understanding that we are in a world full of so much information that many people are sharing a lot of things. It is our responsibility to discern what is for us and what is not. What we're keeping and what we're saying, all right, cool, that's them. And let that be okay. Let people have their own truths and their own experiences and take what is yours and what is not, because all Emma Grede is doing is sharing her truth. The other thing that she is doing that I really, really appreciate, because I am doing this in a sense with my own brand, Get Zen AF, is that she's not in it to try to, she's not sharing her truth or advice from a lens of like, let's change the system. She's saying, this is the system. This is what I've been able to do in the system with all of my circumstances, right? Because she came from low income, she came from a single family home, she came from a parentified background, she had to raise her three younger sisters, she came from nothing. Okay. So from that place, this is what I've been able to do, and this is how I've been able to win no matter what my circumstances were. So if I can do it, you could potentially do it too. And this is what has helped. I didn't try to change anything, I just changed myself. And if you want to change yourself, this is what I did to do that. That's it. And I really, really appreciate this perspective because, like I said, I am not, so with my brand, Goods NAF, I'm trying to create tools and products that really bridge the gap between women wanting to have it all and the society that we live in right now. Okay. It is not, again, set up in a way that just makes us, guarantees us success or empathy or compassion or anything. It really is not. It's still a very patriarchal system and structure that we live in. And it's not really conducive to a woman's success. Heaven forbid if she wants to have a family and impact in this world, or just ambition in a career, like whatever it is, you don't need to be saving lives or anything, but you know? So, and that's what I said too, because I, I can do what I know to do. And what I know to do is I'm a mindset coach. I've been studying personal development for over, what, 16 years now? I don't even know. I've lost track. I'm not, gifted in legislature in any way or political science. I'm not going to be fighting, for any of those things anytime soon. I'm just not. I haven't created some billion-dollar business and sold it and have like endless capital to invest in other female founders and initiatives and resources. I'm not there. And I don't have those gifts or that ability right now. I'm working with what I do have, so I'm not trying to change a system that we live in. I think that would take so much longer, and I don't. This is just not where my passion lies. My passion lies in creating tools that really bridge that gap, that help you as an ambitious woman have all the things that you want and hopefully cultivate a little bit of more joy on that journey by really helping you prioritize yourself, your wellness, focus on your mindset, really master that mindset and master your emotions, and ultimately feel deserving of everything that you desire. That's what I want to do. It'll be a ripple in the ripple effect of what it is that you create, go out and create in the world, and I'm okay with that. But I'm not trying to change a whole system. Again, I don't have those resources. I don't have those skill sets. I have what I have, and that's what I can do. And for me, that feels very, very, very fulfilling. So again, she's not trying to change what things are and what things are for women and what things are for colored women and what things are for, she's not trying to change those truths. She's just trying to share her truths in terms of what worked. So now I would just like to talk about a couple of those headlines, I guess, and just give my 2 cents. If you, hopefully, you guys are interested in that. If you are listening or watching, thank you for being here again. And and again, like I don't feel I'm not going to sit here and say like I have some amazing credibility or anything like that. That's why I'm very grateful that someone like her has shared these truths because it does echo some of the truths that I have and some of the things that I've been trying to say for a long time. And I don't have as much credibility, I guess, as she does, but nonetheless, I am striving for it. I'm aspiring to it. And for now, I'm gonna just double click on some of the things that she has shared. So the first thing was the whole proximity conversation, how she's saying that, work from home is not going to be the thing that gets you ahead. And I have seen this in my own life be very, very true. I have, and I struggle with it quite a bit because I am such a homebody. I do like being at home. I do want to be with my kids. I do want to be close to my family and my home and everything like that. But even like, let's just say, like, and I try to create, ways that I can be in proximity with people online at least. But I do see how important it is to get in person with people. I'm trying to do that right now with my brand and create that community, and it's much harder than I guess it's portrayed. But nonetheless, the proximity is very, very important. When I'm online, it's so much harder to talk about what it is that I do. But get me in front of a person, let me kiss some babies and shake some hands, and people get it. And I just really am trying to translate that online, but I can see how what she's saying is absolutely true. Proximity really matters when you are trying to learn something and advance in your career, when you're trying to be mentored by people, when you're trying to see how people act, how people move, how people do things. It really, really helps to be in proximity with people. When you are out of sight, plain and simple, you are out of mind. So being in people's face, just being involved will help you in your career and in so many different things, even with friendships. It's something that my husband has been trying to really get me to understand because I have been such a lone wolf my whole life. we're always like living somewhere else, and I'm always leaving a lot of my friendships. And I stay in contact with people for sure, but I don't have any of those I don't have like a best friend other than my husband. And it's always like very like it's a little bit sad for me. It's a little bit frustrating for me because I am in such a different point in my life than a lot of my friends and just in a different world. So trying to make new friends with people that understand me as an entrepreneur a little bit better, all that has been quite challenging. And especially if I'm not able to get in rooms with people because I have small children and I live now in the suburbs of where a lot of things happen. So um, it has been very hard. And my husband has been trying to help me understand that it's not personal. It is literally just proximity. The more relevant, the more proximity you are to somebody, the more value you can create for them. And the more value you create for them, like the more, closeness that really is established. So not being in proximity with somebody really just makes all the difference. Sometimes just being at arm's length to somebody will be the thing that helps you build that relationship or establish that skill or what have you. So it happens in business, it happens in friendships, it happens in whatever opportunities, are present. If you are out of sight, you are out of mind. And that seems, easy and, easy enough of a statement to say, but I understand that when you are, working from home or have children to take care of, all of this can be very difficult. But it still remains true. Like I am that person. I am that person that she's talking to that's saying, get it more in proximity with people. And I'm saying, yeah, it's hard. It's hard for me when I have these young children and I really do want to stay in close proximity with them, with my children. Right. So I have a great relationship with my children, just not so much with friends and not so much with potential business people. But now that with this brand, I'm trying really hard to get in proximity with people. I'm going to vendor events, I'm creating my own events. I am showing up at establishments, to pitch wholesale for my planner, like all sorts of things. But I am boots on the ground, getting in front of people. And that is something that I can do now that my littlest is a little bit older. She's almost a year and a half. So, and I feel a little bit more comfortable, but I think that as they need me a little bit less, then I would be more inclined to be a little bit more in proximity to other people and other things. So, again, not to you just have to take what you want and take what you need and understand if it's this season of your life or maybe another season of your life, but we don't have to shoot the messenger. What she's saying is still pretty valid. The other thing that I almost touched on, but um, that is this headline of being a 3-hour mom. This is where she and I probably differ a little bit, but not by much. Because if I was in her position, right now I'm spending much more than 3 hours a day with my kids. My kids are also a little bit younger than hers, I think, as a whole. And, um, that it makes a big difference. But I'm not a 3-hour mom, but I'm also not, I don't have like endless amount of quality time with my kids because I am not as resourced as her. So when I might be spending more time with my kids, but it's usually I'm cooking, cleaning, doing other stuff, involving them into my day to day. Sometimes they go run errands with me. Sometimes they are go wash the car with me, and I just involve them in my life as well. I involve them in the housework. Sometimes I just we interact, but it's not like super quality time. Let me look into your eyes and let me really find out what's happening in your day. That mostly happens, before bedtime or at dinner time. That's basically it, and then on the weekends, we do spend quite a bit of time together. We have experiences together. We go to the zoo, we go to the parks, we just do stuff, right? And I feel like if I was more resourced, then I would have a little bit more quality time with them, and I wouldn't have to be cooking and then them just doing whatever they're doing, and I wouldn't have to be cleaning and then having to involve them just to spend some time with them. It's just different. And if we really think about it, 3 hours a day, let's say, she says it on the weekends. Like she says that she's a 3 hour mom on the weekend. So who knows what she is during the week. But if we think about it, when kids wake up, there's a hustle and bustle of getting ready and getting out the door. Then they go to school from whatever, 8 a.m. to let's just say 3 p.m. Then afterwards, they either have homework, after school activities, like what have you. And then there's dinner time. Maybe they play with their friends. And then it's the hustle and bustle of bedtime. And then they go to sleep. So that a lot of that is not a lot of time, because they're in school so long. So I don't see that as being something jarring. If anything, we need to actually look at the fact that they do spend so much time at school, and that's just how our society has set that up. This is obviously given if you don't homeschool. And who knows if you homeschool and you do other things, maybe you do things on the in the evenings and so there's always that. I don't think anybody can spend 24 hours with their kids and feel sane. That's just me. And that's just being real. And yeah, I don't think anybody would want to do that anyway. And it's not good for them anyway. They'd be like complete weirdos if you were attached to them 24 hours a day. So I understand what she's saying. I do feel like I, uh, and it's hard for me to say this because my kids are just so much younger. So they do need me a little bit more. So I don't know. I don't know how old her kids are. I don't know how old her youngest kids are. I know that she had them via surrogacy. So there's also that component. Like it just takes you some time after having a baby to really get back to yourself. So who knows? Maybe she was a little bit ready to get back to herself after, doing the newborn stage. Who knows? It's just different. But, you know, there's a lot of people in a much different situation that are also 3 hour moms. And that means that they are working two, three jobs just to make ends meet and getting very minimal time with their kids. She's doing it, but her kids are 1,000% much more resourced. So if I had to choose, right, being busy, creating a legacy for my kids and only getting 3 hours for them and setting them up for complete success and giving them an example of what's possible, or working myself to the bone, not making ends meet, and barely seeing them and parentifying them and doing all the things that actually happened to her. Like she's literally living the same life that she grew up with, except on the flip side, with having all the resources and opportunities for her and her family. I don't know. For me, I don't see like a huge um like I don't see a huge problem with this. But I think the point that she makes that are more than just like this whole 3 hour business, because all of that is a little bit relevant, is two things. Number one, it's that she just understands how she wants to raise her kids. She understands the values she wants to instill. She understands what she wants to teach them, and she's living by that. That is what's allowing her to. I actually had to go get my baby right now because she was crying. But that's the thing, is that you are just never going to be able to be everything for your kids forever, right? So because she has a lot of support and a very equal partner, and they hold very unique values, that just works for her. And as a society here in America, it's a little bit different. So, and her values, I feel like, come a little bit more from, because her husband is Swedish, I think. It's going to be a little bit different. But nonetheless, what I think works for her is because, and why she doesn't, I'm sure she deals with mom guilt from time to time. I'm sure she could never get it 100% right. I'm sure it's not perfect. And, but why I feel like it mostly works for her is something that I've been saying for quite a long time is that she has defined what matters to her and what matters to her kids and is only concerned with meeting those expectations, not the expectations of society as a whole and the extra stuff and the extra pressures that we put on moms to work like they don't have kids and have kids like they don't have work. And she just has decided to opt out of that. So she knows what is important to her. And that is, I think, just, having those quality times, having those core memories, going on vacations, being there for very specific, milestones and events. And for her, that's good. And if this is you, if this is somebody, if this is you and you have kids and you are trying to balance your ambition, or if this is you and you are an ambitious woman and you don't have kids yet, but you do want them, and right now you're like, I cannot even fathom how would I even do this with adding kids and a family. It is extremely important that you define the things that people usually don't take the time to define, and that is what would make you a good mom. What is important to you? For me personally, it is being present with them. So because I spent so much time doing other things when I'm with them, I need some of that quality time where I do feel present with them. So that is often on the weekends. And when we do fun things, when we go to parks and like whatever, I'm not working, I'm not looking at my phone, I'm not cooking, I'm not cleaning, I'm not doing other things. I am with them. And I can meet them where they are at and meet their needs in ways that is so important to me because it's in little moments that we can miss when we're too busy or we're not paying attention or what have you, or we're just not having quality time, that we can miss the opportunities to really shape their mind and their self-esteem and their ability to reason and think for themselves and all sorts of things. There's been plenty of moments that I can talk about where if I would have just missed it for even a moment, I would have missed an opportunity to really help my daughters navigate something very, specific. And so for me, that's important. It is important for me to have them have home cooked meals made specifically by me. Do I really like the fact that I have to make 3 or 4 meals a day all by myself? Absolutely not. Sometimes thinking about what to cook next is like the bane of my existence. However, one meal a week that they really look forward to, I would love. So I'm happy to outsource to a chef at some point in my life, except for I would love like a Friday night dinner or a Sunday, day or Sunday dinner or something like that. Something that anchors us in as a family and they can remember my cooking and things like that. Because even right now, my daughters are like, oh, will you make that star soup? And will you make this specific thing or like this like rice pudding? And they're all like very traditional Mexican dishes that I loved as a kid and I make for them now, and I think that that is very sweet and it's extremely fulfilling, and I know that they're going to remember, when they're older. The other thing that is very important to me too is just really celebrating the birthdays, celebrating all the holidays, specifically the ones on the second half of the year mostly, because that's when all of our birthdays are. That's when the Halloween, Christmas, Thanksgiving, all of those big holidays are. So I don't know. I just like making them very festive and they're very exciting and very big because, again, I want them to have something to look forward to. I want them to remember these memories, all the magic that I created for them. And also, I mean, not for nothing, but I want them to come back. I want them to always have some place to come back to for all of those things. And I want them to be like, oh yeah, we're going back to mom's house. You know what I mean? Like Kris Jenner, for instance, she has like the Christmas party. I'm sure like they have all the, holidays that are pretty big and things like that. I really want them to want to come back. Let's just say that. So those are three big non-negotiables for me in terms of, what was really important to me. And as long as I'm doing those, and obviously like all the little things that they really depend on me for to show up at school for, year end of year shows, graduations, things like that are really, really important because there's been times that I've been late. There's been times where their dad couldn't come or something like that. And he's really big on that too. But, just because that's just how it goes, like he's either out of town or something like that. But it's very, very important for us to be there for them in those moments. And and there's been times that been in those classes and other parents didn't show up. It could not be me. It cannot be me. Those kids really, really look forward to you showing up in their school. So, I really respect her for not reading a single school email because those are also the bane of my existence. Holy moly, it's like another full-time job, genuinely. So now with Claude, there's like good ways to try to minimize those things and just kind of track those things a little bit better because they can get extremely overwhelming, especially with three of them in three different schools. So, yeah, you want to just define these things. A lot of the things that we stress over and can't fathom and this and that, let's just define things for ourselves. Part of this podcast is about answering the question, can women have it all? And the other half of that question is, if so, like, what does that actually look like? Let's actually define it. And what it really means is that we all get to define it for ourselves. It's going to be very different from person to person, given our value system, giving our filter of the world, giving the things that, are priorities and, just things that we want and our desires. So it is really, really important that we see examples of what is possible, but we are taking the time to define things for ourselves. What does it actually look like? I would not be a 3-hour mom. I don't want to be a 3-hour mom. I like spending time with my kids. I like, and not that she doesn't, by any means. I just don't have as much support or as resources as she does. Trust me, if I had like an extended family or whatever, then yeah, they would that would be so clutch. I would let them spend full weekends, at their grandparents' house or, every other weekend if that was the case. But I don't. So for me, it's really important that I be that kind of anchor for them. So let's just define what, excuse me, let's just define what that looks like for each of us and stop making each other wrong for whatever else we choose, for which each person chooses. So yeah, that is my 2 cents on some of those big headlines and some of the things that I've been seeing about those headlines from my perspective as a master certified life and mindset coach and as somebody who really likes to analyze things like this. And the last thing I would say is that, and I mentioned it before, but it did come create something from nothing. Her life could have been a very different story. And I don't think that anybody can take that away from her. And it is really sad if anybody is trying to take that away from her because whatever opportunities she has now and whatever you want to say about her marrying her husband, all of those things are created by the little decisions you make every single day. That is what really makes up the results that you are currently living. So if you're currently living in a result that you are not liking, you have the ability to change that by changing the way you think, by changing the way you process your emotions, by changing the way that you show up and take action or don't take action, you have that ability, right? And they're all cultivated by these little tiny micro moments, these little decisions, and you are 100% in control of that, despite any circumstances that you come from or that you're currently experiencing. At any given moment, you get to decide it gets to be different and you get to be different and you can get to have different. So you can't say anything about that in terms of where she came from and what she has created and come out of it with. So it would be a missed opportunity to judge her for what she has said and how she has done it. And instead, let's just learn whatever we can and take what's for us and what resonates and leave what doesn't. We all have the ability and the discernment to try to do that. So All right. I hope you guys have liked this episode and let me know if you learned anything or had any insights. I'd love to hear from you at Julia Garcia. Thanks for listening, Ambitious Babe. And if you are ready to bring the Zen back into your hustle, be sure to visit getzenaf.co to find out more.